My name is Josh Barron. I'm the Senior Academic Technology Officer at Marist College. Sounds like some people know Marist, but if you don't, it's a mid-sized liberal arts institution that's located in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City on the Hudson River. And I'm going to kind of talk about this innovation project that we did last year with our fashion program called the Fashion Online Learning Domain, which we've kind of come to call the FOLD. It's the acronym for that, which, as you guys have already noted and you see there, we've received a couple of innovation awards for. What I'd plan to do here is just give, this is a pretty short session, so I was just going to spend a few minutes on some background so you guys have some context for the work that we're doing here. Then obviously talk about the FOLD and show some examples of the work that we did and demonstrate some of the technology, which is all open source stuff. I think one thing that I really want to emphasize, because they're not here, is that this was really a student-led project. We had students in courses, and part of their coursework was actually developing and implementing this project. Unfortunately, because it's the summertime, they weren't able to be here to present, although now I'm glad we didn't spend thousands of dollars flying them to the conference, joking aside. So I do have some video clips from them, because I think it's really better to hear right from the students who worked on this than me, and obviously we'll just ask questions as we go, but certainly I'll be pretty brief here, so we'll have time at the end too. So Marist has been kind of strategically investing in distance education for quite some time. So we launched our first MBA program online in 1998. I think it was the first accredited MBA online in New York State. Today we have about 6 fully aligned degree programs, master degree programs. We have actually just recently launched the undergraduate degree completion program online and have a few hundred undergraduate online courses, many of which run over the summer. And throughout the last 5 or so years at least, we've been or at least going all the way back to the beginning in terms of the quality of these courses, we've been very focused at Marist in making sure they're rigorous courses, the learning objectives are the same as face-to-face, and really, I think, wanted to ensure that the learning experience our students were getting, whatever the delivery method was, online, face-to-face, hybrid, was equal and equivalent to each other. But at the same time, I think many of us, including our college president, have had a sense that there remains something missing from the online experience, the complete experience our students get in our online programs versus what they get in our on-the-ground programs. And so as we looked at that issue, one of the things we did was kind of look around our campus and try to understand what were those experiences students were having in our face-to-face programs that maybe weren't occurring online. And as we did that, we realized that there really is a huge spectrum of academic collaboration that takes place in our campus. Obviously, a lot of that takes place in our classrooms as part of coursework, kind of formal academic collaboration. And we have a lot of very specifically designed spaces that support that kind of formal academic collaboration, i.e. our classrooms. These tend to be pretty structured environments, somewhat rigid in their design, and often closed to the world. We don't have a policy where students can just walk off the street, come on, sit in the class, and hang out. So they're really designed for a very specific type of academic collaboration. We also then started to notice that we have more recently built out a lot of these academic common spaces. So collaborative spaces in our libraries, meeting rooms in our dorms. We have a lot of these kind of couch areas in our technology center for students to hang out and work together. And these tend to be very, very different environments than our classrooms. They tend to be much more unstructured, much more flexible. People can pull in things and that kind of stuff, different types of technology, and move desks around and so forth. And probably maybe most importantly, it's very open to the world. So our students, for example, will maybe ask a bunch of business owners in the community to come in and meet with them on a project they're doing and so forth. And those spaces support things like student clubs, projects students are working on, faculty, governance committees, and so forth. And as we began to look at that, we realized that for the last decade or two, and I think this is true of higher ed in general, we've been pretty exclusively focused on the left side of that chart here in terms of our online programs. So we invest a lot of time and energy in things like our learning management system, our technology infrastructure, training for faculty on pedagogical issues around distance education and so forth, but it fairly ignored the right side. So we don't have a platform that's kind of designed in a space online that supports the kind of stuff on the right. And that's where we started to realize that there's what we think is missing is the informal academic collaboration that takes place in those more open spaces on our campus. We don't have students just kind of bumping into each other online as they might, you know, in a face-to-face program and deciding to work together on stuff. So at the same time, we began, we started to get interested in this open source project called the Open Academic Environment Platform, or OAE. And as we looked at that, we realized that it really could help solve that challenge on the right side of the screen and be able to support this more informal, more open types of collaboration. And there's a very short video here I'll play that
the open academic environment is designed to support many types of collaboration, like research collaboration, reading clubs, group projects, study groups, and collaborative courses, committees, or even your rowing club. Collaboration can happen as small lightweight groups to large active groups, even across different institutions. It's a network of content, people, and groups where you can share files and links, create documents, and work on them with multiple people at the same time. And you can provide feedback or participate in discussions. It provides powerful and flexible permissions, and it makes it easy to open things up to the wider world. All of this can be searched and discovered while easily reused in other collaborations. The OAE is the only academic system of its kind that's designed user-led. It's based on lots of input and testing from real students and real academics. This environment attempts to provide seamless integration with the systems you already use, so there's no need to enter the same data over and over again, and you can just focus on getting the work done.
So I think that video does a nice job of summarizing some of the core capabilities of OAE. In a few minutes or less, I'll actually show OAE and you can see what we did with it. Whoops. So we ended up coming up with this concept that, at least at Marist, we just call the Academic Community Cloud. And the idea was to marry together our learning management system, which is Sakai, which you may be familiar with, another open source learning management system, with OAE to support the full spectrum of academic collaboration. So not just the structured, formal stuff happening in online courses, but also all this informal, more organic kind of collaboration that I think one could argue actually might be at least as important, if not maybe even more important in some cases, for students' learning experience. At least when I was in college, a lot of the stuff that I did in student groups and projects and things like that really had a major impact on me. So the project that we received the award for, the Fashion Online Learning Domain, or the Fold, was really our first large-scale pilot or experiment with the Academic Community Cloud model. And again, here I'll just show a short video clip from our students talking a little bit about the work that they did in the project to set this up.
The Fold stands for Fashion Online Learning Domain, and it is making the world of fashion accessible to everyone. The greatest part about the Fold is that you do not have to pay for any of its offerings. When you visit thefold.marist.edu, you will be able to view the different components of the project, including the OAE, our growing collection of global street trends, and our free courses.
A MOOC is a massive open online course, so basically it's a free online class that anyone, anywhere in the world can take. We're offering an array of MOOCs. First, we have the student-developed peer-to-peer MOOC. So what this MOOC is, it's focusing on trend forecasting, and it was developed entirely by fashion students, and it's a 12-week MOOC. On the Fold website, you would go to the Learn page to find a list of all of our MOOCs, and then you can register for the MOOCs on that page. We have additional MOOCs that have been created by our fashion faculty. These 3 MOOCs that we have right now that you can register for are the design process, the mobile consumer, and textiles fundamentals.
So just to make sure you got the full picture here, students created a landing page for the project for the guests coming in from around the world who might need to know a little bit about what was available and how to get involved and so forth. You may have picked up that we created a series of MOOCs as part of this that again we delivered through the Sakai Learning Management System. Since they showed a little bit of that, I won't demo that, but people are interested, I can show a little bit of that in a few minutes. But the idea and the primary MOOC the students worked on was this future fashion MOOC, and I think it's somewhat, in my mind at least, kind of doubly innovative, because I think it's one of the first fashion MOOCs, at least we have not encountered Coursera or edX or Udacity or Udemy offering fashion MOOCs yet, or MOOCs in the fashion area. And I've not encountered a MOOC developed by students for other students. So these were, the primary audience was high school students, although it was open to anybody who wanted to participate, but I think it was kind of a neat experiment in itself to have students creating a MOOC for other students, which was a great learning experience for our students in itself. And so as part of the fashion MOOC, students were doing things like learning about how to do street trend forecasting. It may be obvious from my dress here, this is not an area of great expertise of mine, but apparently there is, or people are paid to walk around major metropolitan cities, observe fashion trends that are emerging, use that to come up with, okay, what's going to be the big hot thing next season. And the students taught other students how to do that kind of, there's an art and science to this process, how to do that kind of street trend analysis as part of the MOOC. And they were using the open academic environment to collaborate with each other around the world on observing these trends. And so I'll just take a minute here to show some examples. I don't have enough time to show anything in a lot of detail, but I'll show a couple of things that the students were using OAE, or actually just kind of organically started to happen in there. So this is the website you saw a minute ago, and the network is what we were using OAE to support. And so one thing that's really, I think, important about or unique about OAE is it's built fundamentally to be an open environment. Now, you can close things up. If you upload content, make it private to yourself or a group. You don't have to make it open to the world. But by default, stuff you put up is available to anybody in the world. It's also available for Google to come crawl on our site. So if students are doing street trend forecasting, someone does, oh, what's going to be, what are some trends, fashion trends in Paris? And Google, they might actually come across the work that students are doing in OAE. So I have not signed in yet, as you can see from the sign-in option there, and I'm going to do a search here, see if orange is trending in Paris. And what we get here is a whole bunch of images that students have been uploading. There's hundreds of these from around the world with their observations of these street trends, and obviously the search is pulled up things that refer to Paris and orange. The first one here is kind of interesting. So here's a gentleman in Paris wearing orange, obviously. Also notice the stylish footwear and socks. And so what you see here are all these students from around the world starting to discuss this trend. And so down here, this is the original student who's posting this from Paris. But then you can see that here's somebody who's in London, a student in London, who's making comments, observing something similar. I think in here someplace there is folks from Hong Kong. Here's some student that was in Hong Kong. A lot of these are study abroad students who are Americans in many cases, or at least English-speaking students, but in other parts of the world. So this is kind of just organically how things started to happen, where students were making an observation like this, and then hearing from other students around the world, are you seeing the same trend, and that kind of thing. The other thing they then did is also, because they were, I think, interested in where things were coming in from, they just kind of decided on their own to create an interactive map using Google Maps and put that up for folks to see. So here's a quick example of that. A little squished here on the screen, but you can see they've kind of plotted. Here we have a student in northern China who's come in and reported some fashion stuff there. So you can see here's one in Iceland. That's exactly what I thought fashion Iceland would look like, actually. So, so again, this was allowing the students to kind of organically get together, collaborate, share things, much like what would happen if students in our fashion program said, hey, let's get some coffee and talk about fashion trends in New York City or something of that nature. And the last thing I'll show here is just their final reports. So as part of the MOOC, if their final assessment, in a sense, was to look at all these trends, see the comments, and then come up with some kind of analysis of this and trend forecast, which again is something that happens very commonly in the fashion industry. So here are a number of different reports. This one was just posting the trends and commenting on them. Other students created more kind of formal reports. I think this is a PDF that students created where they spoke about activewear, which you noticed that other picture, the first picture I showed, we're wearing sneakers and things like that. So again, I could spend an hour showing you stuff in OAE. I don't have that time, so I'll kind of cut it there. But just to give you a flavor of the type of stuff going on, yeah. Yeah, so the students, this was part of a course. So we actually created a special topics course for the fashion students. They, in the fall, developed the MOOC and worked on the website and the OAE environment. And then in the spring, most of the same students enrolled in the spring semester course. They ran the MOOC and facilitated a lot of discussions and activity in OAE, and also kept the website updated and things like that. And as a part of this, they actually launched all of this at New York Fashion Week in February in New York City. We have some Board of Trustee members who are very involved in Fashion Week and running the show, so we had an opportunity to be there and kind of kick things off. And so that was another major thing they worked on, was kind of actually putting the launch together at Fashion Week. We had a special event with Betsy Johnson, which again was a new name for me, but a big name in the fashion world that people were really excited about. So I'll just end with, again, a few comments from the students and the instructor here. This quote is actually from Radley Kramer, who's our fashion director, and was also heavily involved in the project and very supportive of the work that was going on here. But again, since this was really student-led, and with
collaboration is a really great thing that OAE has accomplished, because when we said in our presentation, we really utilized it to share our ideas and really collaborate and compromise on what we wanted it to look like. So if we found a website that we liked, we uploaded it and everyone could see it. So I really enjoyed the way that we could really interact with each other.
Sky was a really great application for hosting the MOOCs. The Lesson Builder tool just made it really easy to integrate multimedia, text, quizzes, and forums to make it easier for the students to collaborate, and it really helped us to achieve the peer-to-peer MOOC, which we were hoping to do.
We can intend to have our coursework and our life's work and our relationship with students be really meaningful. We always want that. And I, in my other courses, have very well-defined goals to be met at the end of the semester, and I have a scaffolded set of lessons that will get everyone there. This was so much different from that. I didn't have the answers. I didn't have the steps to get where we needed to go. We found them together. And it was really exciting to let it go, to put it on, to have this team, and they just happen to be students, you know, to cede some of that control to the student. And it is something I hope to employ in the rest of my coursework.
So I think of all the exciting technology stuff we were doing, for me as a kind of teacher and educator, the thing that I thought was most amazing was the learning experience for the students. This was a very real world project. This was kind of, in some cases, bleeding edge technology we're deploying, and if you've dealt with that, you know, there's always failures, frustrations, challenges. Nothing worked perfectly, and there were times when we were worried that the students weren't learning anything because of that. And then at the end, hearing from the students that this was one of the most powerful learning experiences in the 4 years at Marist. Many of these were seniors, and really prepared them for the real world. When we stepped back, and Melissa stepped back, realized that, yeah, this was actually pretty awesome. So, one at a time here, but these are this last slide. These are some of the things that we're focused on next. So we will be offering these MOOCs again in September. The student will have a new student team in the fall, again working in a course to prepare for a new launch in the spring. So same kind of concepts, but probably some new MOOCs and new work in OAE. And if you're interested or know folks who might be interested in participating, we're very actively we love more fashion programs from around the world to maybe jump in and participate. Other institutions want to experiment with the academic community cloud model, and just individuals that you might know who'd be interested in the MOOCs would be great to spread the word around. So that covers everything in a quick summary here in a sense, and I think we have about 5 minutes left to chat a bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I briefly mentioned it maybe before you came in. So we're using the Sakai learning management system for our MOOCs, and we've been doing MOOCs for a little while now. So, and Rebana here, my associate director, has been leading a lot of those. Sakai. No, Marist, likes to experiment and do crazy things, and one of those things was we're running our own MOOCs. We're hosting them ourselves. Now we don't quite have 100,000 students in our MOOCs. Yeah, I mean we do have a MOOC site at Marist. We've also used a lot of these MOOC aggregator sites. So there's a website called Classroom Central, which you could post your MOOCs in and people can come learn about them, that kind of stuff. We've done MOOCs in the area of enterprise computing. That's another area of excellence at Marist, and also planning some MOOCs next year in the area of leadership, which is we have a $65 million leadership institute that's being launched, and so we'll be doing some MOOCs around that topic. Yeah, so actually all three of these, besides the MOOCs, I mean, one of the things of the Academic Community Cloud was also was kind of our response to MOOCs a bit. We were not sure that, I mean, Marist is a place where we pride ourselves in saying the largest size class is 30 students. So MOOCs don't necessarily fit into that model. So we really wanted to bring in this, really go beyond MOOCs and open our whole academic community, not just our courses. So we're doing the Academic Community Cloud model with the enterprise community fashion and the next year leadership too. Mm-hmm.
What's your vision for managing sort of open content contribution, sort of like a change control, or you know what I'm saying, where you actually evolve better and better versions with a bigger reader?
I'm sure maybe I fully got the question, but I mean on a technical level. Yeah, OAE has version control, and so as content changes, you can see what's being changed and all that kind of stuff. But right, yeah, so that's particularly relevant, I think, in the leadership stuff we're going to be doing, because our college president is very involved in our Leadership Institute and really is concerned about having this environment that's associated with the Institute. People come in and they see content that maybe a 4-year-old uploaded or something, and it's really not at the same level of if Dr. Dennis Murray, our president, puts up something. And so what we're talking about there is having kind of a workflow process where we would have, in a sense, kind of chairs or folks who would be reviewing content and maybe certifying it, and then you would clearly see this is either open content that somebody from around the world just put up, or this is stuff that actually Marist College's leadership program has put up or designated as quality content and things along those lines. Does that more answer your question?
Yeah, it's like a wiki problem, or technical is easier than that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that will be a bit of the work we do this year in the leadership program, was figuring out kind of the specifics of that approach, but certainly something we're aware of and working on. So, did you have another question?
No, it's the same.
Other questions? Comments? All right. Thanks a lot for coming on.